Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and I hope all of you are doing absolutely wonderful. I mean, you should be. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, for God's sakes. It's coming out later this year, and it's from Machine Games, a team beneath the Bethesda banner that I would say I have a selective memory of. I say that because I love Wolfenstein: The New Order. I think that is one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and I really love New Colossus as well, because I thought the story in that game was just nuts, absolutely insane. I understand that it's a lot of cutscenes in that game, and it takes away from some of the gameplay for people, especially when you look at how content-filled the first Wolfenstein was, but man, what excellent video games. But this is also the same team that gave me Old Blood, which I was not really crazy about. Like, this is the game that, to me, I always joke about it overhyping the pipe. And then also, it's the team that helped, alongside Arcane, deliver us Youngblood, which is one of the worst Bethesda games I've ever played. So yeah, I have a selective memory in that when I think of Machine Games and I think of Indiana Jones and my excitement for it, it's because of those two games in Wolfenstein: New Order and New Colossus that I get excited about this one. Now, I was invited to a preview here for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, but it's one of what I like to call those previews. And I don't want to come across ungrateful for the opportunity, because I like to do my job and provide as much information as I can for my audience, which is why I'm sitting down to do this today. But also, since I have the ear of various companies who want to hear what I have to say, I will just say that this format isn't great. I will always urge companies to do hands-on previews only. Digital hands-off stuff is good for trailers and stuff. That's what they're doing. But to show it to like press and creators who are supposed to lay their hands on the games and deliver impressions, I just don't like the feel of these sorts of events. And I feel like as an industry, we can do much better. Nonetheless, I did learn some new stuff about the game here today, but I'm also going to be making this video operating on the assumption that you, fair viewer, are familiar with what this game is already doing. Like, it's first person with a little bit of third person mixed in when they're doing traversal, like with the whip. There's, of course, Troy Baker as Indiana Jones, and the performance is pretty strong, very Harrison Ford-like, but it doesn't really shy away from the first person roots of what Machine Games has been known for years. So what I really want to focus on in this preview is just new information I scooped up, because not only did we get to see a little bit of the game, but we did a live Q&A after the fact. All of your questions had to be approved. Your boy's questions never got approved, so I put like 3 in, and your boy got none in. But some of the other members of the games industry, the esteemed games industry, managed to get their questions out there, and so we did get some pretty good answers that I'm looking forward to sharing with you here today. Because the question was, okay, I'm sold on Indiana Jones already. I'm sold on Machine Games being the developer, but sell me on what I'm going to be doing. And I gotta be frank, I feel like even during this preview, I didn't get a feel for the beat-for-beat gameplay, but rather a highlight reel. But I did get some new information, so if this feels like just a bunch of bullet points of things I learned, it's because it literally is going to be that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into previews, hands-off and hands-on, hopefully more hands-on, consider subscribing. Let's start off at the top, because one thing that I was surprised to learn about this game, which we did not see in action, is that there is a progression system in Indiana Jones. And I know that could be like a scary term for something, like, oh god, they're going to have the skill trees. I don't know, but I like the way they're incorporating it. So they said there are adventure points that you'll get, and one of the ways you can get them is by collecting adventure books. So at one point I saw like Indy in a tomb, and he picked up a book and he got an adventure point. And I don't know what kind of abilities or buffs or perks or any of that gets unlocked here, but I imagine if I were to wager a guess, it would be a lot like what Wolfenstein 1 and 2 did, where they had their own various kind of skill trees and upgrades that evolved the gameplay in very interesting ways. And so I'm hoping that Indiana Jones does that. But yeah, when I was looking at this game at first, I didn't expect anything outside of just collectibles, which I did see. Like, you could get treasures and kind of put them in this almost, it seemed like a hub area where you could look at all of the loot that you've gathered over time. So I thought that was really cool. I love when games visually represent your progress in that way. So I thought that was really awesome. But yeah, there is a progression system of sorts here. So we'll see how that plays out. This is what I mean about preview events that are hands-off. I don't mean to kind of keep beating a dead horse here, but just to prove my point, it's like, I could have just paused the game and been like, what is this? And found out and then given you the answer. But now we're both in the dark. So anyway, continuing on here, one of the things I learned was puzzle difficulty. There are puzzle difficulties in this game, and I thought this was nice because the recent Tomb Raider games do this. They have a combat difficulty and a puzzle difficulty, and it was confirmed during the Q&A session that there will be a puzzle difficulty, and that the game director, Jörg Gustafsson, actually talked about how he didn't really like extremely tough puzzles in this game. He did mention there is a bit of a spectrum of puzzles here, but it seemed like he was erring on the side of like, these are easier to solve, and if you're stuck on them, then you can turn the puzzle difficulty down, which I think is great, because I am also in the same boat. Like, there are some people who love a really tough puzzle. For me, circle in the same room for like 2 hours trying to figure something out, Like, I'm the type of dude where I'm playing Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward, and I'll look up the walkthrough for all of the rooms. Like, I just want to get through the story, right? Now, I won't do that for every game, but I'm just saying as an extreme example, like, that's where I am with some puzzles at times. I'm like, I don't get satisfaction out of this. I just get a little annoyed. Is it because I feel stupid? Sometimes, yes. Other times, it's like, dude, I just want to move on. I feel like I see the answer, but I don't know the between steps. So yeah, to know that there are going to be puzzle difficulties in this game, I thought was a great thing that you may want to know about. Here's where it gets interesting, because I think that Machine Games has made really good games in the past, but in particular, I do think of some of their recent titles, Youngblood, which, fairness, spin-off title, but a mainline title in the Wolfenstein series in New Colossus was really thin. Like, this was a short game where I remember my first playthrough on Xbox One of New Order was easily like 16 hours, but New Colossus, I remember being like less than half of that. Very, very short game. And I was a little bit worried of them not showing us the moment-to-moment gameplay. Was maybe that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle wasn't as long as we were hoping for, but right now the claim from Machine Games is that this is their biggest game yet, with a mix of open areas and hubs. There are side missions, and they even mentioned big ones at that, with some being, their words not mine, like hours long, which I was like, hours? Multiple, what? Like, how big is this game? But they said multiple times, biggest game yet, which I think if I look at Wolfenstein 1 as sort of the top of the scale, the fact that it's bigger than that is very exciting to me. Very, very exciting. As someone who's a huge fan of Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, I played that a ton on my original Xbox. It's actually available in back compat if you have yet to play it. And I think it's in the Game Pass library, but you should really check it out. It's awesome, awesome video game. But nonetheless, I love that game. And so to get a bigger, better, probably more fun to play version of that is just so, so exciting. Also, we covered that game on Retro Rebound, and it has one of the best ever video game manuals. But that aside, ladies and gentlemen, a big game with hubs. What I saw in the gameplay and what they described in the live Q&A when it came to the hub areas didn't seem massive, sprawling, open world. It was more like, this is mostly a linear game, and there are times where the areas open up a bit, you can grab a couple missions, and then you go back on the linear path. So it's a little bit of like funneling you and then opening it up a little bit, funneling you and opening it up a little bit. I didn't really get to see the full scale on display, but to me, just hearing that alone was pretty surprising, because that's usually not a sales pitch or a tagline for what Machine Games does. Like, they're more focused on delivering, I think, high quality first person shooting stories. And so to hear them talking about like, this is our biggest game yet, was pretty surprising. On that note, they wouldn't give a specific hour length for the gameplay in the game, but said that if you look at all the content, then you'll have your hands full with it, and that the story is also longer than anything that they've ever done. Now, according to How Long to Beat, I'm looking it up now, they're saying Wolfenstein New Order is like 11 and a half hours. I don't know, did I like just blank out or something? Like, I thought that game was way longer, but you're looking at something over 11 hours. I could see this one pushing 20 hours. I would love to see it find that comfort zone there. I think that would be a really good pocket for it, because I don't think this type of game needs to be super bloated, super long. So I think that sounds right to me. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a bigger game. I mean, you do have the progression system. You do have the treasures that you can collect. They mentioned hub areas. I like that, because I think of in Wolfenstein 2, it's actually the same level with the famous strawberry milkshake scene that I have now learned was completely ripped out of Inglourious Bastards, but I digress. You know, in that same level, you get to like wander around a little bit, and I loved some of the immersive qualities that the Wolfenstein games had in like NPC interactions and just everyone having their own schedule and doing their own thing. And to kind of blow that up into a much bigger area and see that more often in a longer game, I'm very excited about. On that note, no release date as of the moment in time that I'm recording this and during the preview, but they said they're going to be announcing it very soon, so you can at least look forward to that. So I'm imagining right now I'm rolling with the leak date, which was sometime in December. So we'll see when it comes out. I also would like to see it come out a little bit earlier now that Avowed has been delayed, but obviously it's just whenever the game is ready, but no word on release date quite yet. Another bit of information here is that they talked about the balancing of the gameplay. They talked about how they're really balancing it towards being clever instead of aggressive. So one thing I did pull away from just watching the game being played is you can pick up the gun and shoot enemies. You can use Indy's trusty revolver, that sort of stuff. But really what you're going to be doing here is stealthing a little bit. And I was happy to see this, because I am just coming off this preview I did with Star Wars Outlaws, where I thought the stealth was frankly pretty bad. But to see a game that's kind of doing first-person stealth well, where it doesn't look like it's funneling you, like you have to stealth here, but rather this would be smart to stealth. It was like he took out a couple of bad guys and then immediately things started to pop off, used his whip, yanked a weapon out of an enemy's hand, used it for himself. A lot of hand-to-hand combat. It looked a lot deeper than I expected too. Like there was blocking and even parrying a little bit, and the sound effects, I mean, it sounds like a gunshot when you punch someone's lights out in this game. It's absolutely insane. So the sound design is also really good. I could see people loving fist fighting in this game. For me, like one of my favorite things to do in GTA and Red Dead 2 was just like walk around, bump into people and just square up with them. Like, yo, let's see what you got, son, right? Like I love that in video games. I always say there's like two weird things that unlock in me in video games. One is kleptomaniac and the other is fist fighting. I think it's because they're like two things I don't really want to do in real life. So I'm just like, oh, I can do it here and just feel like nice and safe and just, bully people. And so I'm really excited in this game to like bully Nazis and just beat the snot out of them, and especially with the sound effects here. Like it's sick, man. So yeah, they do have a deeper first person melee system, if you will, that I really liked, but I appreciated that they were focusing on cleverness more so than aggression, where you're just going to be like sprinting through environments with guns in hand. Like they are not doing that. This is not Wolfenstein in that manner where you're going to be like mowing them down constantly. So again, really appreciated that. Thought that looked really nice and a welcome surprise indeed. They did confirm there will be snakes, obviously, but yeah, just wanted to make sure that was out there. And then last but not least, bit of information, or I guess this would be more impressions, is I got to see some more of the story, some more of the gameplay. And so in turn, I got to hear more Troy Baker as Indiana Jones. And this is just a great performance. Like it's really him in his pocket. Like what a great casting, what a great fit. One thing that the creative director actually mentioned during this live Q&A that I thought was interesting to note is that he was listening to a line thinking it was from the movie and going like, oh, okay, like where's the, the actor demo line? It was like, oh no, that was Troy. Like that was him. And it was, oh, okay. So yeah, they think he's pretty good in that position. I would agree. I think he sounds just the part, like perfectly captures that Harrison Ford, pitch and depth in his voice, and just really good stuff here. We already know Troy Baker's an insanely talented actor, but he really feels in his comfort zone here with Indy as far as I'm concerned. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my preview for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Hopefully next time I come around and talk about this game, it'll be, hands-on, but nonetheless wanted to give you all of the new information I picked up and see what you think about it down below. So with that, fire away. Let me know your thoughts. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.